Okay, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and start. Good morning, everyone. The time is now 10 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. With our agenda posting, we invited members of the public to view a broadcast of the executive committee meeting, which is live at www.youtube.com/State Bar of Texas. We also provided instructions on how to sign up to speak at today's meeting. Sign-ups to speak remotely were available until 5 p.m. Central Time yesterday. Members of the public will speak under agenda item 3, and those members of the public joining remotely will remain in the Zoom waiting room until it's their turn to speak. Please note that this meeting will be recorded and the recording will be made available to the public. Executive Director Trey Apfel, will you now please call the roll?
Director Benish.
Here.
Director Browning.
Here.
Director Toscano.
Here.
Director Denbo.
Here.
Director Gomez.
Here.
Director Greenslade.
Here.
Director Harrison.
Here.
Director Hicks.
Here.
Director Huddleston.
Here.
Director Castle.
Here.
Senior Justice Lehrman has an excused absence. Director Martinez.
Here.
Director Selleck.
Here.
Director Smith.
Here.
Director Stafford. Director Vargas.
Here.
Director Voss.
Here.
Director Rampelmeyer.
Here.
And Justice Young is on his way. We have a quorum.
Here.
Mr. Carlos Dillon, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Vargas. Soy Carlos León. First and foremost, gracias a Dios for empowering me to expose serious CDC violations gutting attorney discipline system integrity. Because my handouts are part of my public comment, I request they be distributed to you now following last meeting's dissemination protocol. State Bar has not previewed them.
You can set them on, we'll pass them out later. You can set them right there on next to you. Thank you.
Okay.
And just for the record, I just wanted to say, because of some laws and rules that require certain types of information be protected, I need to look at that, and then I will make it available to these members.
You can proceed.
Thank you. In the materials here, the 20-page packet behind the cover letter contains my first grievance against Chief Disciplinary Counsel Shauna Willing, filed this morning. Based on 2 CDC letters, I allege Willing violated TDRPC Rule 8.04A 1 and 3 by violating Rule 3.01, meritorious claims and contentions on 3 issues. Read my grievance 2025-07711, proceeding against Victoria Haslett. I show Willing egregiously violated TRDP Rules 210 and 210A to prevent me from receiving same quality review as fellow complainants, and to provide respondent Victoria Haslett special treatment. By returning my on-time, one-time only amendment to new initial grievance 2025-07711, Willing is not examining new additional documentary evidence from relevant case law showing Haslett's knowingly made false statements of fact to a tribunal are material under TDRPC Rule 3.03A1, though the tribunal did not consider or rely upon them. My expounded materiality argument exposes and debunks Willing's tacit, not material rationale for misclassifying grievance 2025-07711 in inquiry. Though Willing claims her practice areas are ethics, legal malpractice, and government administrative, her actions speak like the do as I say, not as I do Pharisee hypocrite that Jesus warned us Christians about in Matthew 23:3. Inconsistently applying her misconceptions, Willing trapped herself by contradicting herself. Less like Law and Order and more like Lucy Ricardo, Shauna Willing's got some splaining to do. Though I'm keeping Ombudsman Lowe in the loop on all this, CDC has not confirmed sending my hand-delivered materials to the Commission for Lawyer Discipline. Neither providing a direct communication link to commission members nor releasing their commission business email addresses obstructs us members of the public from informing them about CDC violations requiring commission correction, hindering commission's oversight of CDC.
Mr. Lone, your time is now up.
Okay, but didn't he take some of my time when he interrupted me so I could continue? I just have one more, just one more.
Finish up,
sir.
please.
Thank you, sir. Disdaining your responsibility to regulate yourselves in the public interest compromises the independence of your profession and the public interest it should serve. Your fitness to oversee yourselves is still on trial. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Thank you, President Vargas.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. I believe we've now heard from every member of the public who signed to speak, and the public comment period is now closed. During the remainder of the meeting, if there are board members or staff that are present who wish to speak, please come up to the podium, and I will let you know when it's your turn to speak. And now we'll hear from our Executive Director, Mr. Trey Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, committee members.
Morning.
I have a general report for you. Beginning first, good news on the Leadership SBOT front. At the end of February, our Leadership SBOT class held its second meeting in Galveston. This year marks the 18th class to participate in the program. That's 18 years of programming. The class was once again joined by President Vargas and TYLA President Allison Martinez. Participants heard from an outstanding lineup of leaders in the profession, including Judge Jeff Brown, Josephine Swordway, John Netchman, and Karen Walron. I had the privilege of witnessing the strong connections already forming among these emerging leaders, and I am confident that they will carry forward the program's tradition of stepping into meaningful leadership roles with the State Bar. The 2026 annual meeting is coming up. We continue to prepare for that meeting. The conference is scheduled for June 11 and 12 at the Marriott Marquis in Houston. The annual meeting committee is hard at work finalizing our slate of keynote speakers and raising funds to cover the cost of the event. If you are interested in sponsorships, please let us know. There is a handout in your materials in Board Effect that lists the different law firm and corporate sponsorship levels. Also on the horizon will be our 2026 Local Bar Leaders Conference. So planning is underway for this year's conference, which will take place July 23 and 24 at the Westin Galleria in Houston. This will be preceded by our biennial board workshop on July 22nd. So this will be a work session for the board on strategic planning and other issues related to board governance. As you know, the Local Bar Leaders Conference brings together local and specialty bar leaders from across the state, young lawyer affiliate leaders, and access to justice delegates, all to share information and ideas to help them better serve their respective members. The conference is just one way that the State Bar meets its statutory purpose of encouraging the activities of local bar associations. State Bar is focused on providing resources for our members on the potential benefits and pitfalls of technology. Our latest project is Ask a Human. How appropriate. It's a webinar Q&A series created by our Law Practice Management Committee and staff from our Law Practice Management Department. The series complements the State Bar of Texas AI Toolkit by putting a human face on AI. The team is hosting live webinars where lawyers can ask questions, any questions they have about AI in the law. The first event took place in November and was a great success. The next one is scheduled for 3 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on April 15th. Members can now register at Texas Bar Practice, at the Texas Bar Practice website at texasbarpractice.com. I believe we have over 500 individuals registered for the April event. So it is a very popular program. And if you haven't reviewed the State Bar Texas AI Toolkit, please do so. It's the first of its kind in the nation. Toolkit covers practical and ethical concerns of using AI in legal practice, and it is available at texasbar.com/AI Toolkit. And Mr. Chair, that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trey. Do you have any questions or comments from directors on the executive director report? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to my report. Just kind of briefly to update you all on what I've been up to over the course of the last couple of months. It's been a busy winter and certainly a busy start to the spring. Had the opportunity to speak to several different bar associations, including the Corpus Christi Bar Association, the Fort Bend County Young Lawyers, as well as the Honorable Marina Garcia Marmolejo American Inn of Court in Laredo. Also had the opportunity to provide remarks at several events, including the State Bar of Texas Council of Chairs and the Women in the Law Annual Symposium just last week, as well as the reception that was put together by Liz Cantu in the Rio Grande Valley for the Supreme Court of Texas. Let me tell you, I had the opportunity to attend that event. The Rio Grande Valley went all out and did a remarkable job welcoming the Texas Supreme Court to the Rio Grande Valley. Steve Toscano and I are already busy trying to figure out how we can potentially top that next year with an invitation to the Supreme Court to come back to San Antonio. But it was really, really a remarkable job. And it was really special to see one of our former directors do such an incredible job putting that event together for the Texas Supreme Court. Also had the ability or the opportunity to represent the state bar at several other events, including the National Conference of Bar Presidents, which was held in San Antonio on February 4th to the 7th, the Dallas Bar Association Gala, the Houston Bar Foundation Annual Luncheon, the Travis County Women Lawyers Association Judicial Reception, and the Austin Bar Gala, as well as the Houston Association of Women Attorneys 50th Anniversary Gala just this last weekend, and wonderful event. We also had the opportunity this last week along with David Smith, Trey Apfel, and several other, Chris Ritter, several other representatives for the State Bar of Texas to represent the State Bar at LSC Days in Washington. We had several rounds of productive meetings with lawmakers and other leaders on access to justice on a nationwide level. And we think that we feel really good about how we ended up with those efforts in Washington, D.C. We also are excited to welcome everyone in just a couple of weeks to my hometown, Bernie, Texas. And so we have some really special things lined up there, including a reception at my home if the weather holds out. And we also have planned a solo small firm CLE, and that will be held, it's free, as it always is, on April 23rd for solo and small firm practitioners. Topics include a Supreme Court of Texas update, a state bar update, and updates on family law, litigation, and employment law. And I want to thank, I know she's not here, but I still want to thank her Senior Justice Deborah Lehrman, along with directors Chris Nicholson, Cade Browning, and Deanna Gomez for agreeing to join me as speakers at that event. Every attendee will receive 2.5 hours of CLE credit for free, and registrations available on the Texas Bar CLE website. I'm also pleased to report that the efforts to get folks to speak to their local bar associations and thus end up on the Wall of Honor have been going very well. We've had several new directors sign up to speak and either already have presented or are on the verge of presenting to their local bar associations. And that's what a big part of all of this is about, is getting out there and being ambassadors for the State Bar of Texas. I will say that if there's anybody in this room who has not yet had the opportunity to sign up to speak to one of their local bar associations, I'd ask you to please do that. It would mean personally a lot to me if we had 100% participation from every one of the elected directors on the board of directors sign up to speak to their local bar associations. It's so incredibly important that we get out there and not just do the hard work that we do in rooms like this, but go out there and tell everybody about the hard work that we're engaging in on their behalf. So if you haven't done it, please do so. And it would really mean a lot to me if you did. Just a quick update on the this year's Access to Justice campaign, the Stand with Santos campaign. I've used every single one, every opportunity that I've had, speaking to lawyers across the state to try to raise both awareness and funds for access to justice. I'm happy to report that at this point, even though the initial goal was to raise at least $300,000 for access to justice, we have raised approximately $586,000 in value for access to justice. And that's a combination of both dollars raised as well as hours pledged. And we all can stand to do a lot more on access to justice. As David and I, or David can attest to, we really worked hard on access to justice in DC last week. And those funds are so incredibly important to so many people. So let's keep on doing everything we can to support access to justice efforts across the state. Another quick update on that front. The Hispanic Lawyers Section and the Access to Justice Foundation have agreed to donate all proceeds of the upcoming Loteria. If you've never participated in Loteria, it's an amazing event. It's coming up on May 7th. You can sign up. You can either sign up as a sponsor or you can sign up to just buy a Loteria card on the Texas Access to Justice Foundation website. If you haven't done it before, it's a lot of fun. Our own past president, Sylvia Barinda Firth, is going to be one of the moderators. And so it's a really fun way to spend a fun evening over Zoom with folks. And in addition to that, raise money for access to justice. So if you haven't signed up, please do. It's a really great event. We also, I guess, moving on, we need to approve the minutes from our January 8th meeting. And so I need a motion and a second to approve the January 8th, 2026 minutes. Any director who wishes to make a motion, please state your name. Anybody wishes to make a motion? Okay. Director Denbo, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Chrissy Castle, Director Castle, we have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, with that, the ayes have it and the motion is adopted. I also want to give one last update on the at-large director appointment that we recently made. The State Bar invited potential nominees to submit applications by December 1st. The ad hoc committee to select at-large directors reviewed the nominations, conducted interviews with all of the applicants, and submitted 2 nominees for my consideration. I then conducted my own interviews with both of those nominees. They were both fantastic. You all did a wonderful job with those selections. But unfortunately, we could only pick one. It was a really, really difficult decision, but we ended up selecting Samantha Ann Orwich Nadolny. She will be a great addition to the board. She brings lots of energy and just a long history of leadership in lots of different organizations. So we're very, very excited about that appointment. Her resume, if you hadn't had a chance to review it, is in your materials. That appointment will be presented to the board for consideration at the April meeting, and the term for that position will begin at the annual meeting. I want to thank Noelle Hicks, the committee chair, for doing such a fabulous job, as well as all of the members, including Steve Toscano, John Greenslade, Karen Locke, and Armin Salick, for all of their great work on that selection process. And with that, unless there are any questions or comments from directors, we will have a report from our chair of the board, Brittany Harrison. Any questions or comments? Okay, Madam Chair, you're up.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
So just a couple of things, reimbursement requests. Directors, please remember to submit all of your requests in a reasonable, timely fashion. We're about to come up on the end of our fiscal year, and so we need all reimbursements turned in no later than May 31st. So May 31st, get everything in before that. For annual meeting registrations, you should have all received emails from Jennifer Reams about your registrations forms for the 2026 annual meeting. Please make sure you've submitted those. If you haven't, make sure you do that before you leave today. And then if you need any help locating it, as always, you can contact Jennifer. And then the board chair election reminder, we will be voting at the April meeting to select the 2026-2027 chair of the board. The candidates are Steve Toscano of San Antonio, Deanna Gomez of Houston, and Amy Rod of El Campo. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any comments or questions from directors? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the report from our President-elect, David Smith. Mr. President-elect, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Vargas. Hi, everybody.
Good morning. Hello.
Wow. This has just been a blast. The past quarter, the beginning of this year and getting to do all the things that we've been doing. I've been learning a lot about this position. I've had great mentorship from Santos and from Steve and from Trey and all of our staff. They're here to make sure and help me make sure that I don't do anything really stupid. And they've done a tremendous job of that. I hope that I serve them well and make them proud for what they've been teaching me. We've been to many different events. You heard about them from Santos. I'm not going to bore you with them, telling them again. It's just, I will just tell you, it's been a great learning experience. Watch your social media. I haven't been posting as much as I should be, mainly because we've been going everywhere. So I'll catch that up and you can see what's going on. But as we've been moving through this educational process and them teaching me the ropes of how this thing works, we are also getting ready for what's going to happen next year. And next year is going to be a blast, folks. We're going to be doing a lot. We're going to be having a lot of fun. But we're also going to be doing a lot of good for the people that we serve and the lawyers that we serve. And so as we look forward to that year, I'll just tell you some of the highlights of what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be working on supporting our local bar associations. We had many bar associations after COVID. They just disbanded and went off to the side. We're going to revive them, put them back to work, and see if we can't get them serving the people that they served before things went south with COVID. We're going to be strengthening access to justice again, following through with the great momentum that Santos has given us through the Stand with Santos program. We're going to be putting some nuts and bolts together to make that even stronger. We're going to be working on encouraging mentorship, personal development, and mental health support, not only for our lawyers, but for our law students who are part of this bar just as much as we are. We're going to be working on helping them and reaching out to them. And most of all, we're going to be putting an emphasis on professionalism and how to act right, how to treat each other, how to work with each other. We do an exceptional, the thing I've been proudest of in my bar service has been this body, our board of directors. We have people of every conceivable political belief, religious belief. We cover the spectrum, but we all come together. We like each other. We work together. We solve problems, and we do it in a civil manner. We need to use that as an example for the rest of the world. And I'm proud of that. I want to continue that, and I want to spread the word. And that's what we're going to be doing. That's just some of what's going to happen next year. Just give you a little tease there so that you can be looking forward to what we're going to be doing. Now, I'd like to talk to you about the budget real quick. The proposed budget for fiscal year 2026, 27. It hasn't changed since the presentation that you heard earlier in January at the board meeting. Your packet includes a copy of what was published in the Bar Journal. And today, this morning, Executive Director Apple gave the public hearing, presented the budget to the public in a public hearing. He did an excellent job on that. It was so good, nobody had any questions, and it just sailed right on through. The next thing that will be happening is that a motion will be made in the April meeting to obtain board approval to present the proposed budget to the Supreme Court. And then pending board approval, a meeting will be held on April 27th where the budget will be presented to the Supreme Court. That's about it, folks. Looking forward to our meeting in Bernie. This is going to be a lot of fun there. Everybody do good, be good, and let's look forward to moving forward.
Thank you, David. Any questions or comments from directors? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to our report from our immediate past president, Mr. Steve Benish. Steve, you have the floor.
Good morning.
Morning.
2.5 months. And it's kind of the opposite bookend from David's report. I am 2.5 months away from completing my service to the State Bar of Texas. Yeah, I had a lot of people last June congratulate me when I finished the State Bar officer over the last quarter. Putting aside board meetings I attended of the Texas Board of Law Examiners, the Center for American International Law, and the Houston Young Lawyers Board of Advisors, on which I serve, I really only attended 4 events in my capacity. One, as President Vargas indicated, were the annual galas of both the Dallas Bar and Austin Bar. Attended both of those. The National Conference of Bar Presidents, which was here in San Antonio in February. And then it was my pleasure to represent the State Bar in attending the annual induction ceremony of the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize our chair, Brittany Harrison, who was sworn in and inducted and board certified at that meeting on February 25th. It was fun to be here. Really only one report, and it's the same one I gave it in January, just an update on where we are in connection with website redesign. The State Bar staff continues to work on the redesign of texasbar.com. We are giving the site a fresh look and feel and organizing content so that it's easier to find, easier to navigate, and accessible to all users, whether they're lawyers or not. As I reported in January, the design phase is complete. We're done with that part. Staff is now in the development phase, and we are actively migrating migrating content over into the new site, which will have the same URL when completed. We're going to be launching that. We look forward to launching the new website here in just a few months. And that ends my report, President Vargas.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, do we have any comments or questions from directors? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the report from the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee. And I believe we're going to be hearing from Mr. Paul Staff. Paul, you have the floor.
Thank you. State Bar elections, in case you haven't heard, for President-elect and District Director will kick off on April 1st, tomorrow. 2 candidates for State Bar President-elect, Sarah Clower Keithley of Corsicana and Ray Thomas of McAllen. They've been campaigning all over the state. I've seen them all over. I'm sure many of you have as well. And they've been doing a great job. There are no petition candidates this year. In order to help them get their messages out, the candidates created 2 videos and 2 written messages. The first video was distributed by email and on YouTube on March 26th, and the second will be sent on April 8th. The written message was sent by email on March 18th, and the second will be sent on April 16th. These materials also will be shared on social media and the State Bar's website. The State Bar is conducting a candidate forum with the president-elect candidates today at noon, and it'll be hosted by myself and immediate past President Steve Benish. It'll be broadcast through Zoom with opportunities for lawyers to ask questions of the candidates. Presentation is going to be available on YouTube and on the State Bar elections page found at texasbar.com/elections. We're featuring information on the candidates in the April issue of the Texas Bar Journal. We're also sending other communications such as emails to the membership and social media posts to help educate lawyers about the candidates. We ask that all of you, each of you, help publicize the elections and help us increase our turnout as much as possible. Please, please, please. There are 10 district director positions for election this year. The chart candidates is included in your meeting materials. Tell them what they won, Vanna. Just as a reminder, there's also emails being sent and a postcard. This is the postcard that'll be sent to all the members for the 2026 elections, and reminder to them that the balloting is electronic this year, so that they do need to vote. It'll include a link. postcard that'll take you directly to the elections page that includes information about the State Bar and the TYLA president-elect candidates and the director positions. Please contact the State Bar Executive Office with any questions regarding the voting process. The election will go throughout April and will end at 5 p.m. Central on April 30th, and the results will be released that evening. Please make sure you spread the word about voting. Are there any questions for me?
Good, go ahead.
I did have one thing to add, if I may. So today's forum, that Co-Chair Stafford just mentioned, traditionally, we get between 100 and 150 people who sign in order to sign in and watch it. But this year, for the first time, we're offering CLE credit for signing in and watching it live. And so as opposed to the 150 that we had last year, as of this morning, we had over 900 people who are signed up to watch the forum. A little gulp moment for our candidates, I'm sure. But considering how many people, or how few lawyers, many or few, vote in these elections, that's a huge chunk of voters who are interested enough to come watch our two candidates for an hour. And I think that's an interesting and encouraging development.
Indeed.
Any other questions or comments from directors? Okay.
Thank you.
That's fair. Appreciate it. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the report from the Administration Committee. And so I'd like to call Director Cade Browning to come up. Cade, you have the floor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, the Administration Committee is actually going to meet tomorrow at 1:30 to consider and make recommendations to the board on some of the rule changes that are proposed by the Courts Rules Committee, which last met on March 27th, which was Friday. And one of them I've reported on before is the proposed changes of the Texas Rules of Appellate Procedure 49.5. As y'all may recall, previously in January, the admin committee met and considered the Court Rules Committee proposed changes to Rules 49.5, but the changes were proposed to ensure the parties seeking en banc reconsideration directly address the governing legal standard. The suggested revision required that the first page of an en banc motion on an appropriate heading address the standards set out in Rule 41.2C. The admin committee, based on Ms. Voss's astute recommendations, made a recommendation that instead of requiring the standard to be addressed on the first page of the motion, which could be problematic in cases with numerous parties in the style, the requirement would be addressed at the outset of the argument, close quote. So that at the outset of the argument in the en banc motion and an appropriate heading, the movement must address the standard for en banc reconsideration in Rule 41.2C. The Rules Committee then met again and considered those recommendations and voted last Friday to revise the proposal in line with the admin's committee's suggestion. Therefore, we expect tomorrow we'll adopt and recommend the approval of this change, but we'll report back on that at the April board meeting. Also, last Friday, there were two new proposed changes to the rules by the Court Rules Committee, which we'll take up tomorrow and report back at our April meeting about. One is on Rule 199.1. This is related to non-stenographic depositions. Permits, as y'all know, 199.1C permits depositions, oral depositions to be recorded by non-stenographic means, provided that a person authorized to administer oaths is present. And questions have arisen, however, regarding the relationship between this provision and the Texas Government Code 154.101F, which you may or may not know was amended slightly in the last legislative session. But it generally requires depositions conducted in the state be reported by a certified shorthand reporter, subject to statutory exceptions. And so the proposed rule basically would allow a comment on that to add a proposed comment that parties seeking non-stenographic recording under subdivision C of Rule 199.1 must ensure compliance with Texas Government Code 154.101F. Well, we won't get into the details. Justice Young is here, but there is a pending case at the Supreme Court regarding these issues as well. If anybody's interested in that, it's in Ray Patrick Huey. And so the committee will take that up tomorrow, the proposed comment. Also, Texas Rule Civil Procedure 502.5, the proposed amendment is to change the defendant's answer date from 14 days to 20 days in Rule 502.5D. And that change will apply to Texas residents and non-residents. And that amendment is sought to assure a resident and non-resident defendant a justice court be afforded an adequate period of time to answer by increasing the number of days to answer once they're served. And so by extending it from 14 to 20 days, that safeguards due process by consistency. The current version of the rule requires such a defendant to file an answer no later than the 14th day after service. And as you can imagine, 14 days sometimes is a tad short. So the proposed amendment to 502.5 would make it the 20th day after the date the defendant is served, excluding weekends and holidays. So again, the committee is going to meet tomorrow. We'll go over these 3 proposed rules and we'll report back at the State Bar Board meeting down in Birmingham. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Kate.
Any comments or questions from directors? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on. Before we move on, I just wanted to note for everybody, you may have seen in your agenda that we had a report from the MCLE committee, specifically from Yolanda Cortes Mars. She wasn't able to make it, unfortunately, today. And so we will get an update at the board meeting coming up here in a couple of weeks. With that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our report from our Audit and Finance Committee from Director Forrest Huddleston. Director Huddleston, you have the floor.
Thank you so much and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
The Audit and Finance Committee met yesterday and I've got 2 just quick updates for you guys. One on financial reports and just a general review of the financial statements, and then another on how the internal audits for fiscal year 2026 went. First thing, the State Bar's financial performance as of January 31st, 2026 has been better than expected or budgeted. We always set a budget in late of any given year, October-ish timeframe, and then we track against that actuals to the budget. And we are so far exceeding that budget, which is a good thing. So I'm going to keep it decently short because typically the focus whenever it's we're not hitting that budget, we would go into a little bit more, but we're actually exceeding that budget right now. So great job to the operations team, great job to the finance team and everybody who is exceeding that for helping to cover future deficits if there are any. The general fund has a budget to actual positive net variance of about $2 million. State Bar is outperforming its budget for the 8 months of the fiscal year, primarily in the areas of online CLE revenue, investment income, and Texas Bar Journal advertising. State Bar is reporting actual net income so far this year of about $3 million compared to $1.2 million last year, which is awesome. As you guys may remember, the increase is the increase in net income is from the increase in membership dues and the performance of certain other revenue sources. General fund expenditure growth rate is steady and controlled at 2.4%, which is slightly better than the budgeted or planned increase in expenditures of just over 3%. And lastly, your EC packet contains the full financial statements and dashboards if you guys have any additional questions. Next update is on internal audits for fiscal year 2026. So just as a reminder on this, we have external auditors who come in and look at our actual financial statements. They make sure that everything is reported correctly and that those numbers that are in our financial statements are materially correct. When we have an internal auditor come in, they come in and say, hey, do your processes and procedures allow you to report those numbers correctly? Are your processes in place to allow you to ensure that you have top tier operations, like I said, to allow you to report those numbers correctly? And every year we have a rotating group of functions that are reviewed with the exception of the Public Fund Investment Act. So prior year, we agreed that we would look into legal access department, the law practice resources division, and the investment controls and compliance, like I said, with the Public Fund Investment Act regulations. The auditors presented the audit reports to the Audit and Finance Committee yesterday and will present the reports to the Board of Directors at the April board meeting, but overall, very clean opinions on these. The auditors had one small recommendation for us. I won't get into it, but it wasn't a control deficiency. It was just, hey, we can improve on this area. We'll get into that a little bit more at the board meeting in April, but the management team has already corrected it even before they issued their opinions. So well done to the team and congratulations on clean audit opinions. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Any questions or comments from directors? Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Director Huddleston. With that, we're going to move on to our DCAP subcommittee report, and we'll hear from Director Chris Rickmeyer. Chris, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. The Disciplinary Client Attorney Assistance Program Committee, kind of a long name, we'll just call it DCAP, met yesterday on March 30th to consider and to make recommendations to the board regarding proposed rule changes initiated from the Committee on Disciplinary Rules and Referenda, CDRR, regarding the Texas Rules of Disciplinary Procedure R.1.06M and R.2.10. As per the State Bar's last sunset report in 2017, the Committee on Disciplinary Rules and Referenda was created to be the committee that initiates all proposed rule changes. Pursuant to Section 81.0875 of the Texas Government Code, the CDRR initiated 2 proposed rule changes. Section 81.0877 of the Government Code provides that the Board of Directors is to vote on each proposed disciplinary rule recommended by the CDRR not later than the 120th day after the date the rule is received from the committee. That places the proposed rule revisions before the board at this coming April meeting. As part of their proposed rule process, the CDRR publishes all the proposed rule changes in both the Texas Register and the Texas Bar Journal. In addition, email notifications went out to all Texas lawyers. The CDRR also held public comment periods for each of the proposed rule changes and individual public hearings. And at the public hearing, there was no substantive comment made by the public. The first proposed rule change is to Rule R.1.06M, and it adds allegations of, that's in quotes, allegations of minor misconduct to the definition of discretionary referral to clarify that misconduct is not assumed but merely alleged. Rule 1.06M definitions. Discretionary referral means a grievance received by the Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel that has been determined upon initial classification to involve allegations of minor misconduct and is appropriate for referral to State Bar's Client Attorney Assistant Program. The second proposed rule change is to Rule 2.10 and adds language that clarifies the procedures on how grievances are reviewed, dismissed, amended, and appealed. These amendments are intended to provide claimants and attorneys with the opportunity, to provide claimants with the opportunity to amend their grievances and to improve for both claimants and the attorneys that are the respondents transparency. It adds consistency and fairness in how grievances are handled. That concludes the report of the DCAP committee.
Thank you, Director Rampmeyer. Any questions or comments from directors? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to our report from the section representatives to the board. And we're going to hear from Director Brandy Wingate Voss. Director Voss, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our Council of Chairs meeting for the spring was held at the Texas Law Center on Friday, February 20th, where the chairs voted on 2 new section representatives to the board. Don't get too excited that I'm leaving because I'm not. I'm unopposed as a district director, so I'll be back. But your new large section rep is going to be Renisha Fountain of Houston from the tax section, and your new medium section rep is from the newly named constitutional law section, Corinna Chandler of Dallas, and they were selected by the Council of Chairs, so they will be starting up at the annual meeting. The aviation law section has proposed changing their name to the aviation and space law section. This proposal has been working its way through the process and will be submitted for approval at the April board meeting. And that's all I have.
Any comments or questions for Director Voss? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to hear from our liaison from the Texas Supreme Court, Justice Evan Young. Justice Young, to the floor.
Thank you. I know it says Senior Justice Lehrman, so very sorry of those of you who came in reliance on that all the way to Austin. Can they get their money back, Trey? It is hard to believe that the first quarter of 2026 has just a matter of hours to go until it is gone. Does time not seem like it is going faster and faster? And I always say that all the time. It's almost a cliche, but this year really seems to have proved it. One thing that marks it for me is we're having an investiture with the thanks of the State Bar to memorialize, to swear out, I should say, Chief Justice Heck, Justice Boyd, but also to invest, to swear in Justice Sullivan and Justice Hawkins. Justice Sullivan has been a member of the court now for well over a year, but it doesn't feel like it to me, which is keeping with this sense that time is moving faster and faster. I hope that a lot of you will be able to attend that here in Austin, Capitol, the reception to follow to mark the changes on the court. Other changes on the court, I think I mentioned this last time, but we now are a quarter into our new petition for review process at the Supreme Court. So those who have worked before the court, well advised to become familiar with those new rules. There's a summary document attached to the order, the final order that adopted these rules, and it, I think, does a good job of trying to explain in ordinary language how the new system works compared to the old system. So far, so good. I think we maybe have our first grant candidate from the new system, which maybe has been announced, maybe not. Sometimes it's dangerous for me to start talking before I think to the end of my sentence. But I'm hopeful that the bar will regard this as a positive change. Maybe a year in, we'll reassess. We'll see how people are liking it. Other big changes, you all are aware, this is not news. We finalized the Rule 166A changes, and that is pretty significant. It's important to note that it's not substantive. No substantive summary judgment standards or change, anything like that, but it is a pretty substantial non-substantive change to how the process is supposed to unfold, triggered by legislation, and then as a result of our need to respond to statutory direction. The Supreme Court Advisory Committee suggested that we go ahead and try to simplify and clarify the rules to some degree and to refine how we measure the relevant dates. So everyone who is out talking to your members in your Wall of Honor program, perhaps throw a mention of the summary judgment rules for anyone who perhaps is engaged in litigation sometimes, but isn't always. They might not be as up to speed as those who always are, but they need to be. It's an important thing. A few other changes that are now coming into effect also as a result of statutes. Judicial time reporting. SB 293 asked the court to propose a rule for requiring district court judges to record time. It's an odd thing in many ways. The legislature's asked to do. We've done it. It's, I think, not a laborious thing. Hopefully there will be more positives than negatives. The last thing we certainly want is for our district judges to feel as though they're being treated like hourly workers or, God forbid, partners at law firms having to write down all of their time. It's the main reason many of them aren't partners at law firms. But the legislature has asked to see if this might perhaps be a way of providing greater transparency into how the judiciary of our state allocates its time. And my expectation is that in the case of many judges, people will be astounded at how much time is actually being spent on the various things that judges do in order to try to make this very complicated system work. Judicial disciplinary rules also, when there are complaints about judges, there have been some change in this area. And so SB 293 also rewrote some of those procedures, and those rules take effect tomorrow that we have worked to address in compliance with that statute. Another one that's gotten some attention, especially here in Travis County and in Bexar County, are the central docket changes. There are three main steps that the court announced in approving the rule that will take effect July 1st in order to allow those two counties in particular, some time to make further adjustments. This has been announced for a long time. It's not a surprise that this has happened, but nonetheless, we recognize making changes to how things are done is difficult and frustrating. So hopefully that lag time will be of use. The first thing is that cases should be randomly assigned to judges. There should be no way that someone can go into a clerk's office or file litigation, file a new case online and be able to direct it to a judge in counties that have multiple judges. That's not what our system expects, and it's not what we'll tolerate. The second is that originally assigned judge remains responsible for the case, unless and until it's transferred in a proper way according to the many rules and statutes that authorize that. And then the new judge will be responsible for it, which will in turn allow for much better record keeping, management of statistics and data. And the third is that the transfer out as a general matter of a case to a different judge, while certainly possible, minor things are not transfers. If a judge just monitors another judge's docket while that judge is at the dentist, jury is sitting there, we need somebody else to be there to answer questions or take the verdict or whatever, no problem. That's not transferring a case. But if it is transferred, it's at the discretion of the judge whose case it is. And that allows, again, for the judge to manage the docket properly and to maintain that sense of responsibility. So we hope that this will work out well and not lead to the rending of garments and the gnashing of teeth, but hopefully instead to maximize the ability of judicial officers to get their work done without taking away the important tools that they have always had and will still have to share the burdens with their colleagues who are willing to share. Eviction rules, bail appeals, those are new things that we have released orders on. Take a look at those. Those are very important to the citizens that we all serve. Those are the situations, PFR, petition for review rules. Well, that's not something that most Texans are going to think about and shouldn't. That's not really something we should ask them to focus on. That's for the bar to think about. But evictions and bail and things like that, that actually affects ordinary Texans. And of course, all of us, no matter what our practice or our role in the judiciary, ultimately are serving them. So please do take a look at those if you haven't yet. The bar exam. This is something that has been in some degree of evolution over the past decade. And the state of Texas will be participating in the somewhat self-indulgently self-labeled next gen bar exam, replacing the UBE next gen. Oh, well, we'll see, but that's what we're going to have. And the court has said that we're ready to transition back to having a Texas component of the bar exam. We left that for all real purposes. Currently, those taking the bar exam will watch a video and they can watch it as many times as they need to until they click the right answer for the Texas thing. And then they move on to things that seem to actually matter. When something isn't truly graded, isn't something that is subject to evaluation, I think that maybe signals that it doesn't really matter. And so while we're going to participate in the nationwide process so that score will be portable, people need to take a Texas law component. And here are the subjects that the court last week approved for the Texas component of the next gen bar exam. Trusts and guardianship, wills and administration, Texas civil procedure, Texas criminal law and criminal procedure, family law, real property law, including oil and gas. And so how that will work exactly, the nature of those tests still to be developed, but the deans of the law schools understandably were curious as to what it is that they should be telling their students who will be taking that exam, what should be studied, and that is the answer. And so lastly, I'll talk about one final thing related to something that we're doing, but also what you all are doing. I'm very grateful and delighted to hear all the updates about Stand with Santos. And I was very delighted to hear that President-elect Smith is going to retain and expand upon that program, which made me think, what will we call it? We'll Stand with Santos be followed by Sit with Smith. maybe Saunter with Smith. How about Scamper with Smith? Or Stride with Smith. Soar with Smith. Doesn't that sound good? Or maybe really what it actually is, Serve with Smith. Or we could shift out of the S's and do Dance with David. I don't know. I'm looking forward to hearing how you announce it, but it's a wonderful thing to hear, as we did this morning, so many references to access to justice, to pro bono, to the work of the bar, again, in serving those Texans who depend upon the legal system to actually ensure the reality and not just the perception of fairness and equality, that the law will be enforced and followed and obeyed. And the bar, more than any other entity in this state, has the capacity and I think the ability and the desire to perform a leadership role in ensuring that our people believe that our profession actually is committed to this important goal. One small thing that the court did was to propose amendments in which a lawyer may earn up to 3 CLE hours for pro bono work, but not just by doing 3 hours of pro bono. it would be a multiplier. And we talked with leadership in the state bar to see what they could find out how other states that do something like this do it. And we have proposed 1 hour of CLE for 5 hours of pro bono service. And that pro bono service isn't simply, drafting a will for Aunt Thelma or something like that. It has to be something that you're doing in conjunction with a basic civil legal services fund grantee like the Houston and Dallas Volunteer Lawyers Program or Disability Rights of Texas or Lone Star, Rio Grande Legal Aid. Think those entities that we have confidence that they're really identifying those who are genuinely in need. And we want to encourage people to do that without diminishing in reality the amount of actual CLE that they take. My guess is, we'll see. I imagine that we could do some statistical analysis, but the people that are already willing to do that much pro bono in order to get just 3 hours of CLE probably are also the same people who are having 50 and 60 hours of CLE each year. I doubt that this will dramatically or meaningfully impact that. So we're taking public comment on those rules until June 1st. So take a look. This is something the bar and the board ought to be very interested in. We expect those rules to take effect on January 1st, which ought to provide a lot of time to allow the reporting systems to be updated. I know that there are, we talked, the three of us talked about how there's a process here at the state bar for updating that. So this should allow plenty of time to not mess up anything, not interrupt anything, but still, and it's always, starting things on January 1st is good, isn't it? I once wrote a case at the Supreme Court in which January 1st, we concluded was the last day of a multi-year term. A lot of cognitive dissonance. January 1st is the day things are supposed to start, not end. But every once in a while, that's not the case. But here we hope that will be the beginning of this process, and we hope that it will work out well. Any questions? You're just asked. I'm not supposed to ask that. You're supposed
Thank you, Justice Young. Do we have any questions or comments? Yes.
Quick comment and question. First, to rehabilitate the TBLA a little bit, it was the National Conference of Bar Examiners, not the Texas Board of Law Examiners.
That named
came
it,
up
yes.
with the Next gen.
That is true.
Little Star Trek.
I in no way intended to suggest otherwise, but thank you for that clarification.
And it has been a pleasure to work with the Supreme Court in identifying the categories of examination for the Texas component. And now we begin the process of writing those questions. So thank you for that.
So thank you. It's going to be an awful fun experience for
It
you,
actually is.
former president. Yes.
Because we're getting back to having an actual Texas component, and that's exciting.
And then you'll get to grade them. So even better.
So we're getting back to having, yes, it is. We're looking forward to that. The question is this: when and where did you state that investiture that you mentioned?
May 7th at the Capitol. I don't remember the exact time. I should have written that down, but I think it's like 2:00 or something like that. Is that right? Okay, 2:00, the Capitol. And is the reception here afterwards? Right in this very building where our feet almost just bring us to natural. When you're in Austin, it's kind of like the first day of 4th grade. Did your feet kind of bring you back to your 3rd grade class? When you're in Austin, go somewhere, doesn't your car sort of start driving towards the state bar building and your feet start walking here? That's right. So that should be easy. So I hope you all will come. It will be in truth, Nathan Hecht is the most significant judicial officer in the history of Texas, state or federal. No one has played the role that he has played in the administration of justice. He is a giant in our profession and for the judiciary. And this is one of the few remaining ways that in his capacity as a judge, with the court sitting in session, we can honor him. And I think that by itself would warrant attendance if you possibly can come and celebrate the end, the constitutionally mandated end, since that was the one amendment that did not pass in 2023 of his judicial tenure.
Thank you, Justice Young. Any other questions or comments? Okay. With that, we're going to now hear from the Texas Young Lawyers Association. So we have a report from President Allison Martinez. President Martinez, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Always so hard to follow. Justice Young. My report will be very short and sweet. TYLA has been doing lots of hard work in this break where we had our Q3 board meeting in Laredo in mid-January. And we won't meet until May for our Q4 meeting in Conroe, Texas, which typically we conclude all of our business for the year. But we've just been so hard at work. We've nearly finished our big project, which was generously funded by the Texas Bar Foundation. It is titled For the Public, Texas Lawyers in Public Service. So proud to see the work that our vendor has done, to see the work that the committees across TYLA have contributed to. And so I'm very, very excited and anxious to share that with everyone in Texas, but especially the State Bar. And so it features several public service attorneys on the website who were interviewed. Like I've mentioned before, we took over this whole space for about a week. So thank you to the State Bar for allowing us to do so. And we conducted a number of interviews that will be highlighted. We also have a podcast that has longer form interviews of very impressive individuals in the public service space. So it's really a feature, and it also includes resources for students, potential law students who are interested in entering into public service roles and how they can potentially do so. So a multifaceted project that we're so proud of. Our national trial competition, which is the premier mock trial competition in the country, will be taking place next week. It is co-sponsored by the Texas Lawyers Association and the American College of Trial Lawyers. Every year, we are in our 51st year of the competition. It will be held in Dallas next week from Wednesday, April the 8th to Saturday, April the 11th. If you all happen to be in Dallas during that time or have friends, we would so appreciate if you would sign up to judge a round or two of the competition. It really is so much fun. These are the best law student competitors in mock trials in the country. We've held regional competitions all across the country, and this is the best of the best. And I've learned a few tricks or two from the competitors, just because they're so sharp, so dedicated. It really is one of our pride and joys every year to host this competition. Our programming committee has been so busy and hard at work. You will probably see a podcast or two being released every week, and these feature impressive attorneys, all from impressive female attorneys who are trailblazers in their field to young gunners who were maybe not, the practice of law wasn't originally what they intended, but they've ended up here and made significant strides in the profession. To advocates of the tech space and to public service attorneys, like I mentioned earlier. So be sure to check those out. I'm so grateful to our programming committee. My email is flooded with ideas of podcast episodes. And even though I feel like we've not hit a lull, but there's a break between meetings, they haven't stopped. So very, very grateful to them. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, our Q3 board meeting was held in my hometown of Laredo, Texas. It was so special to have everyone there. We were able to meet with several students who were part of the Kaizen Fellowship Program in Laredo. It is a program that is a pipeline to the profession of law. The fellows are high school seniors or high school juniors who spend a summer in the federal courthouse learning about what it takes to be a lawyer. And several alumni and several aspiring fellows joined us at the Embassy Suites in Laredo, where they were able to meet with our board of directors. I believe we had over 50 participants who came in on a Saturday. And so it was really special to spend time with them. I was not, unfortunately, able to mingle with them or network with them because at the same time, our nominations committee was hard at work selecting our slate of candidates for our executive committee and, of course, our two president-elect candidates. Claire Harbert and Dave Hagan are the two president-elect candidates for the Texas Lawyers Association, and they have been doing a tremendous job being ambassadors of TYLA and representing our organization so well across the state. But I am almost positive that as much fun as they've had this month, they are also very grateful that today is March 31st and they are done with their campaign. But we at TYLA have, one of my priorities this year was to make sure that we get the vote out. We know that voting in state bar elections and TY elections isn't the most popular thing to do, but we wanted to really encourage as many young lawyers and lawyers in general to vote. And so we've been doing our part through social media to get that going. And finally, our Q4 meeting will be taking place in Conroe, Texas in May, like I said, where we will conclude our business. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Madam President. Any comments or questions from directors?
Thank you.
With that, we're going to hear from our general counsel, Ross Fisher. Ross, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Personal financial statements are due April 30th. I've had a couple of you ask questions this morning about them. I've been working on mine since January, not because it's complicated, but because the whole process makes me nervous. And two things that made me nervous is I've not gotten my annual letter from TEC telling me that my PFS is due April 30th. And then the other thing that makes me nervous is when I'm working on it and I go in there and I'm working on my report, it does not have a due date. The due date field is just blank. But my office has reached out to TEC. Some of you are experiencing the same thing. And I found out this morning, the staff at TEC has said that they dropped letters in the mail last week. They have a statutory obligation to give 30 days notice of it, reminding you that this is due. Those letters were dropped in the mail last week, so you should be receiving a notice. Those of you that file PFSs any day now. They're also scheduled to send out a reminder letter sometime in April. The other thing that I learned is that the software does not show you a due date until you have either filed it or you have failed to file it if it's late. So when you're looking at that, just remind yourself, April 30th, that's the due date, because it's not going to tell you that until May 1st and you've screwed up. So that's my report. I'm happy that if you have questions as you're working on it, my advice is, remember, it's due like the day after our next board meeting. You're not going to want to work on it the night of the board meeting. You got 30 days. But if you have any questions about those, feel free to reach out to me. I'm working on mine. Happy to talk through any issues. Thanks. Yes, sir.
You're rolling off in June.
You still have to do it. All right. They changed the rules. I think we talked about this last time, is that if you're rolling off, you still have to file one for the part of the year. Well, this one that's coming up covers, the one that's due April 30th covers the calendar year of 2025. Next year, you will have to file one covering the first 6 months of 2026. Yep, that's right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ross. Next up, we'll hear from our chief legal counsel, Chris Ritter. Chris, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I was just gonna, respect of Justice Young mentioned that these matters will be discussing state court appellate issues in closed session.
Okay, it is now 11:08 a.m. and the State Bar Board of Directors Executive Committee will now recess the open meeting and reconvene in closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551.071 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel regarding Robbins versus State Bar of Texas et al., Graves versus State Bar of Texas et al., and is authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551.074 to deliberate regarding personnel matters. With the exception of board members, board liaisons, and section representatives, all other individuals, including non-essential staff and other guests, need to excuse themselves from the closed session. We will notify the public when we're 5 minutes out from returning to open session. Okay. It is now 11:15 a.m. and the open session of the Board of Directors Executive Committee meeting will now reconvene. During the closed session, only matters related to consultation with legal counsel regarding Robbins versus State Bar of Texas et al. And Graves versus State Bar of Texas et al. Were discussed. No action was taken in closed session. And with that, can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting? Okay, so who moved? Okay. Director Hicks moved and Director Castle second. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay, record time, folks. We're nothing if not efficient, 11:16 a.m. 1 hour and 15 minutes.